Middle East itself, Hamas is considering the latest ceasefire proposal that the United States, other countries are hoping may bring about not only a ceasefire, but the release of some hostages still being held and possibly avert a military attack by the Israelis on the city of Rafah, that's in the southern part of Gaza. Nader Hashemi is back with us. He's with Georgetown University. Nader, how hopeful are you that a deal is imminent or not? And we've had this conversation a number of times, you and I, over the last couple of months, but is this time any different?
I think it is different because it seems, based on leaked reports that we have, that the two sides have come pretty close. We have some details that have been leaked from the Lebanese newspaper Al-Akhbar, which is close to Hamas, that lays out a three-stage plan. The latest reports are that Hamas has rejected the last Israeli offer, but they're willing to keep talking. And the sticking point seems to be over the language that specifies when Israel would withdraw from most of Gaza. So I think, we're much closer than we have been in a very long time. But whether we can get to the finish line, which would put an end to the immense suffering in Gaza and allow for the hostages to be released, whether we can get there, I think that remains to be seen. But I think we'll probably know the answer in a few days.
Yeah. What do you think are the key sticking points here in terms of, let's say, the position of Hamas to actually agree, Nader, with this proposal?
Yeah, well, the sticking point, according to what I just read, was that they want a change in the language that would guarantee, after the first two phases of the plan are implemented, that Israel would withdraw from Gaza. According to the current version, the language is quite vague. The first stage basically involves a pause in the fighting and a release of Israeli hostages, not all of them, but most of them, in exchange for Palestinian prisoners. The second phase would be after roughly 6 to 7 weeks, then allowing Palestinians to return to the coastal areas in Gaza, then to central areas in Gaza, and then to northern areas. And then the final phase would be having Israel withdraw in exchange for a return of all of the hostages. And then this plan apparently also calls for return of dead prisoners and hostages that are in each other's captivity, and then a plan for reconstruction over a 5-year period in exchange for Hamas promising not to rebuild its arsenal. And each of these phases would be separated between a 6 to 7 week time period. So the last version that I heard is that Hamas wants tighter language that would guarantee an Israeli withdrawal. Whether they can get that or not remains to be seen. So there's a lot of missing pieces here, but I think we are much closer than we were just a week ago.
A deal, if it happens, does that stop the Israeli military from going into Rafah?
Well, that's a good question, because just yesterday, Benjamin Netanyahu said, deal or no deal, he's going into Rafah. Now, that can be interpreted as him trying to play to his right-wing coalition, because they've said if there's any deal and if there's no invasion of Rafah to eliminate Hamas, they're bolting from the coalition, and that would force elections. So there's a lot of complicated factors at play on the Israeli side. There's a lot of complicated factors at play on the Hamas side. And of course, it's pretty clear why Biden and Blinken want an end to this crisis, because it's dragging the United States into the Middle East again. But it's also producing these campus protests that you've just been reporting on. I suspect Biden and Blinken now have another incentive to try and get to a deal, hoping it will defuse this campus-wide mini revolution that seems to have broken out across the United States.
Hey, Nader, always good to see you. Appreciate you taking time for CTV News.
Thanks.